Hi everyone, you're here sewing with Cody and Pete, and in today's video we are going to be working on the B38 Bernette with the Bernette B38, which is definitely my favorite Bernette sewing machine, and I've sewn on just about every Bernette sewing machine we've had for the last 12 years, and this is definitely my favorite. It's a perfect low compact sewing machine that has every feature that any sewist really needs at a excellent price. So in today's video, we are going to be working with the edge stitch foot, which is a must-have accessory for any sewing machine. And when it comes to our Bernina sewing machines, this is the most used foot. So quite naturally, on our Bernettes, this is a must-have accessory. So before we jump into the video, if you enjoy the video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. And if you find any notions, fabric, or anything that we use in the channel, or anything in general, if you're just looking for something and if your local quilt shop doesn't have it, or your local quilt shop is too far away, check out my good friend's shop. She is located in Springfield, Missouri. So if you're local, go check her out. It's Merrily We Quilt Along. The website and the link is in the description below. And if you use the coupon code CODY, C-O-D-Y, when you check out, you receive 10% off your entire purchase. All right, so let's take a closer look at the Bernette B38 and its edge stitch foot. So here we are on the Bernette B38 sewing machine, and like I mentioned before, this is definitely one of my favorite little sewing machines at an excellent price, but it's just such a good, it does everything that I needed to do. I've done many quilts on this machine, and it comes with a number of different feet, but there are some things that it doesn't come with, the edge stitch foot being that foot. So if you've seen any of my other Bernina videos where I talk about foot number 10, this is essentially foot number 10 for the Bernette B38 and B37. So this foot will both work on the B38 and B37. And it attaches just like any other foot. So with this foot, we can take a closer look and we can see it has this metal guide that comes to the center of the foot. But one thing it does not do is it does not obstruct any of your sewing. So you can do any stitch that the machine's capable of doing, and you can ride this either along the edge of your fabric or down the seam. There's many different things you can do with this. And this Bernette machine has 15 different needle positions, which is really nice. And that's 15 different needle positions with the straight stitch only. So we're not able to use any of the decorative stitches and change your needle position like our Bernina sewing machines and some of the other Bernettes. But with this, we can do a straight stitch and we can move that needle wherever we need it to be. So we'll do some demonstration with this foot on some sample fabric. But some of the things that we use an edge stitch foot for is we use it for quilting, like stitching in the ditch or stitching along the edge of the seam, just with like a straight stitch. This is excellent for making webbing, using webbing to make straps, edge stitching around the shirts, around collars. I mean, anything we can think about stitching along the edge of the fabric. And you want to make sure that you're stitching nice and close, so you can move that needle over to the left or over to the right, depending on which way you're going. And you're able to get a perfectly straight stitch. It looks so professional having an edge stitch foot. So let's put her on and take a better look and see what we can create or some of the things that we use this foot for. So this foot goes on just like any other foot. So there's a little lever in the back to take off our regular sewing foot. In this case, it's foot A. And we're going to put on what is foot S. You can see it right in the center there. But it's just your edge stitch foot. So attach that foot, get our thread behind the foot. And so the simplest thing we can do is we can just stitch along the edge. So what we can do is, so we're on a straight stitch, which is stitch number 1. And the way we're able to change our needle position is with stitch 1, our stitch width icon here, or buttons here. That's how we're able to move our needle to the left or to the right. It's not going to change the width of the stitch. So it's not going to take that straight stitch and make it a zigzag. It's going to take that straight stitch and move it over to the left or move it over to the right. So let's move it over to the left and take a closer look. So we can just, and basically all we're doing is making sure that fabric is touching left inside edge of that guide. And so here we're able to get a nice, beautiful, close seam. Perfect. And such a great stitch with this Bernette. One of the reasons why it's my favorite little machine. So even if we're going to pretend we've got a seam and we would be stitching in the ditch or doing a decorative stitch. So we're going to ride that seam or that guide right in the seam, and we'll choose a different stitch. So just so you can see, there's a little drawer down here that has a little booklet that has all the different stitches in it. In my opinion, you got some alphabet fonts. And in the very back, you've got some instructions on how to thread the machine, how to wind the bobbin, and use a needle threader. In my opinion, you can never have too many stitches. So let's find one that would be fun. So let's do stitch number 43. So to change a stitch, so if we look here, these pages are mode 3. So all these stitches are classified in mode 3. So right here, we're in mode 1. So we hit the mode button here and move down to mode 2 and then mode 3. And then this stitch that we want is stitch 43. So just type 43 and it'll take you directly to that stitch. And you get a little picture of the stitch too. So if we look at our stitch, we can see how it stitches it right in that seam using that number 10 foot. It does such a great job. And that's the beauty of that foot S, or basically it's the edge stitch foot. So it's got that center guide. We can ride it right along that seam or right in the ditch or along the edge, and we're able to keep it nice and straight, and it kind of keeps it in that seam because it's a thin metal strip or guide that will lay right in that seam or right along the edge of your fabric. So this is definitely one of our absolute favorite feet for any sewing machine. And having a machine where you can change your stitch, your needle position is very important. So on the B38, with our straight stitch, we can use the stitch width options, and we can move that needle either to the left or to the right. But if you do use a decorative stitch like we did, there's really no need to adjust your stitch width because you want it to kind of stitch in the center, at least with the stitch that we selected, that little feather stitch. All right, well, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to show you an optional foot that's available for the Bernette B38 and B37 machines. And it's one of those must-have attachments or must-have feet because there's so many things you can do with it. Like I said, we quilt with it, we put on binding with it, we make straps, we edge stitch garments and projects with it. It's a must-have, wonderful, wonderful foot. All right, remember, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and of course, check out my friend's website and store, Merrily We Quilt Along. The link is in the description below, and make sure you use the coupon code CODY to receive 10% off your order. All right, as always, happy sewing.